Hi, everybody, and welcome to City Beat. I'm your host, Nancy Byrne, and we are coming to you from the Doolittle Senior Center. This entire program has a theme about the gift of giving, starting with this very first story. When we go to get vaccinated or tested for COVID-19, we sometimes don't really notice the people on the front lines, the people there to help us. Well, recently we went to Chuck Minker Sports Complex, where there was a vaccination clinic, and we found out for everybody in line who has a story about how COVID has affected their lives, so do the people there to help us. Here at Chuck Minker Sports Complex, the city of Las Vegas recently partnered with the Southern Nevada Health District to vaccinate people over 70 and those who work for any of our local utilities companies. This is an area of Las Vegas that is home to many who might have had a difficult time getting out to other locations to get their vaccine, or due to a financial or language barrier simply didn't know where to go. Enrique Lopez knows this firsthand.
So I grew up a few blocks away on 28th Street in Bonanza. Then I went to Walter Bracken Middle School, grew up in this area. I actually grew up in the government houses that are no longer there. There's a public library there on 28th Street in Bonanza. That's where I grew up, here in this neighborhood. My dad would actually bring me to Chuck Minker as a kid. We'd play racquetball, basketball, go in the learn Taekwondo in the side room over there. So this was my old stomping grounds.
When word went out about this event to those who work at Las Vegas Fire and Rescue, Enrique was among the first to request being part of this 3-day vaccination effort.
As soon as I heard the name Chuck Minker and community service, I jumped at the chance. I emailed the chief right away. This is home. This is where I was a kid. My parents immigrated here from Mexico to give me a better life. They did. They accomplished that. I didn't know back then that we lived in, below, lower income housing and things of that nature. So now when this opportunity came up, I said, go back to my old neighborhood, give back.
Ideco Flores is with American Medical Response. She too wanted to be here because this was once her neighborhood.
It's an honor. It always feels great to be able to come back to my community and give back to them. It just feels like the old days. I'm able to pretty much understand where everybody's coming from and able to translate for them, and it feels great.
Being fluent in both English and Spanish is a big advantage in this neighborhood where, for many, English is a second language. Enrique says his father's strict rule to speak Spanish at home and only English outside the home has enabled him to be of added help on the job and in situations like this.
Because he wanted us to have both languages. And so being able to serve the community here with my English and Spanish is a huge benefit, because I'm able to give back to not only my community, but even my bloodline, where my parents came from. Like I said, they immigrated here. So it feels good to do that and be able to give back in that sense as well.
Ideco agrees. She believes being able to communicate with everyone here provides added comfort in these unsettling times.
A lot of people come in nervous, not understanding the process. So just being able to ease their anxiousness, it helps out a lot.
Every single person serving at the testing and vaccination sites in our community is present out of dedication and a desire to help our community. But being from the same neighborhood as many of these people here at Chuck Minker enabled these two first responders to remember where they came from, and it prompted them to jump at the chance to give back. We all know that those people on the front lines at the testing and vaccination centers for long hours are not there because it's a party. They're there because they care about the community, and we all owe them a huge thank you during these scary and unprecedented times. Well, we've just wrapped up February, which is Heart Health Month, but frankly, every month ought to be, since heart disease is the #1 killer of Americans. We recently sat down with Melanie Denon of Las Vegas Fire and Rescue to find out some things we can do to avoid heart disease. She also talked about learning CPR and why that's so important, because saving any life is incredible, but you could save the life of someone you love. When someone suffers a heart attack, time is of the essence. Every second that passes could be the difference in life or death. That is why, if you or someone you are with thinks they're having a heart attack, the first and most important thing you need to do is call 911. This not only gets the patient to the hospital quickly, it starts the vitally important treatment immediately.
We can look and see if you're having a heart attack. And if it looks like you are, even if it looks like you're not, but you're exhibiting the signs and symptoms, we have medications to treat that. Pain medication, nitroglycerin that opens up your blood vessels and tries to get blood flow around the blockage. Same thing with a stroke. You know, it's easier for us to get through traffic with lights and sirens than, you know, it could take you 30 minutes to get to the hospital where we can get there in half the time. We do a lot of the same treatment besides surgery that they're going to do in the emergency room anyways. We are a mobile emergency room. That's why we're there. That's why you want to call us.
The second most important thing you can do is join the mere 3% of the population that is trained in CPR. Denon says the American Heart Association has done numerous studies and found it's not as intimidating as it used to be.
And they found that the majority of people were not doing CPR because they had to do, you did mouth to mouth. And unfortunately, when somebody goes into cardiac arrest, sometimes they vomit or they have fluid in their mouth, and it could be a stranger. And so they found that the breathing is not as important as we used to think. Now it's just keeping that blood flowing until emergency crews can arrive and oxygenate it.
She demonstrates the simple yet life-saving steps. First, check to see if they are conscious, breathing, and have a pulse.
If they're not breathing and there is no pulse, you want to start CPR. You want to follow their rib cage up to the very top. Put 2 fingers there, and then right above that, you put the palm of your hand, okay? The base of your hand, the heel of your hand. 2 hands, you want to get right above them so your shoulders are directly above them and you're not pushing sideways. And then you want to just push down hard and fast, about 100 to 120 beats a minute to the rhythm of Staying Alive from the Bee Gees. About 2 inches.
Now, no matter how strong you are, continuing this pumping is exhausting, which is just one more reason it is important more people get the training.
Do it until you just can't anymore, or until if somebody else comes who knows CPR, you want to switch every 2 minutes.
Of course, the best thing we can do is to prevent heart disease, but that takes work. Denon says start by exercising. Now, you don't have to become a triathlete. Just get up and move. Utilize our great city parks and trails to walk, jog, or ride a bike. If you smoke, quit. If you drink, do so conservatively. And diet is key. Try cooking at home more, but watch what you prepare.
You should always add color to every meal. Any color of the rainbow you can fit in there, fruits, vegetables, all of it. Cut down on fatty meats, go for lean meats. Avocados are great. It's actually a really healthy fat. And fatty fish has good omega-3s for your heart.
Finally, know the signs of a heart attack and do not ignore them or hope they just go away.
Common symptoms are going to be chest pain or pressure, usually in the center of your chest. Men and women do present differently, though. So that's one thing people need to understand. Men can get shoulder and jaw pain, like on one side of your jaw or your neck. Women tend to they'll get chest pain, shortness of breath, lightheaded and nausea, and pain in your back, right between your shoulder blades.
Leading a healthy lifestyle, knowing the signs of a heart attack, and Denon strongly adds knowing CPR can make the difference in saving a life or someone passing.
70% of cardiac arrests outside the hospital happen at home. So learning CPR, only 3% of our country learns CPR. So people need to be part of the 3%. And you're more likely to do CPR on somebody you know or love.
Melanie says Las Vegas Fire and Rescue is working on giving regular CPR classes, but you can find them just about anywhere. The Red Cross, American Heart Association, just go look online. Now, at these CPR classes, you'll also learn how to operate an AED. You see these boxes all over the place. Las Vegas city parks, big box stores, the airport. It's another important tool in saving lives. But Melanie says even if you don't have that training, the machine literally walks you through the process and you can save a life. Well, as we mentioned earlier, there is a common theme in this program about the gift of giving back. When we come back, we're going to meet one of the many people being honored at a new city park for giving to the community through art.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Welcome back to City Beat. As we have been telling you here on Channel 2, there's a new park going up in the historic west side of our city called Legacy Park. This $3.2 million project is a partnership between the city of Las Vegas and Clark County. It's going to be more than just a beautiful place to escape the hustle and bustle of our city. It's going to be a place where you can go and learn some of the history of our city, and you can learn about some of the African Americans that helped build our city and made big changes. Well, here on City Beat, we are profiling some of the 36 honorees who will be featured when Legacy Park is completed. Right now, we want to introduce you to Vicki Richardson and her late husband, Lewis Richardson. Mr. Richardson was founder and CEO of Richardson Construction. They built Doolittle Senior Center along with many other structures in our community. And Mrs. Richardson continues to give back through art and education. When you step into this gallery at left of center, you immediately feel embraced by its beauty and entranced by the works of art surrounding you. This first floor gallery hosts rotating exhibits. The theme now through April 30th, 2021 is called Bending the Arc, a social justice exhibition. It is a collection by artists depicting an event or personal experience that left a permanent mark on their world and ours. Like this intricate paper creation depicting 176 birds for the 176 people who died when that Ukrainian passenger jet was shot down in 2020. This charcoal creation by Lance L. Smith is of his mother, who he lost at a very young age. And who can say this creation by Diane Bush hasn't become way too recognizable in our world?
We just put out a call. This is what we want to do. We want to do something on social justice. Gave them enough time to work towards a project so that they knew about 8 months ahead of time that this is what we're going to do. They might have something that they were already working on or have done before, but most of these are new pieces.
When Vicki Richardson puts out a call to artists, they take notice because she's one of the original artists and educators to take notice of the vast artistic talent in and around our community, particularly among artists of color.
When they come here, they're going to see quality artwork. And some of my mentors that were here earlier have said that they've never been to this gallery and not seen a quality show.
When she arrived in Las Vegas in 1978, she said young, brilliant artists of color really had no place to show.
We can't sell your work because if it had a lot of ethnic qualities to it, they just felt that there's not going to be a big enough audience.
She eventually opened this gallery in the 1990s to nurture these artists, give them a place to show, and to widen their horizons into other venues. At first a for-profit gallery and educational center, it is now nonprofit, but the mission has not changed. Aside from this rotating gallery, there's a permanent exhibit of African art on the second floor, pieces she collected and others lent to the gallery by local collectors.
We have our African art exhibit, which is our main focus, you know, because it's taken years to collect this, and We have plenty of people who are in the community who have authentic things that have traveled back and forth to Africa year and year, you know. And so we've come up with a very good collection that's recognized all over the state, all over the country, actually.
This exhibit is also part of the educational aspect of the center.
Then we have an educational component to that exhibit, which shows you how the pieces were used, how they were created, how they're used, because that art isn't made to be hung on the wall. That art is made to be used in ceremonies and traditions, and they have more purpose.
Speaking of education, all while working to expand the talent of our ethnic art community, Vicki Richardson was teaching art all over the city, but mainly at Rancho High School. A high school she specifically chose because she believed students there would benefit from a rather specialized degree she earned from the University of Chicago.
My background is in inner city education, and I got a degree from the University of Chicago, and we went into inner city schools. I mean, schools that had gang rivalry, you know, two gangs in the same school, where they had to cross each other's territory to get to school. And so it was a lot of tension in some cases. In some cases, that art classroom was the only place that they could relax.
She has many former students who have gone on to become very successful. She hears from many of them years later.
That's about the most rewarding part of my life, is those students, because they have a lot of problems, you know. Some people had given up on, but they have a lot of talent.
It is hardly a side note that Lewis Richardson, Vicki's late husband, is being honored right at her side. He was founder and CEO of Richardson Construction Company. He had a hand in building so much in our community and the surrounding area, such as several projects at McCarran International Airport and UNLV. His company built fire stations in Las Vegas and North Las Vegas, the Downtown Transportation Center, Centennial Hills Park, and Hollingsworth Elementary School. The list could go on. These were all contributions he made to our community years after helping to build another community in greater need.
He has a degree in engineering, and when he graduated from college, he actually went to Sierra Leone, and he lived there for about 4 years and built bridges and schools and things there. So he had been in building for quite a while before he came here.
She proudly shares this latest distinction of being named an honoree in Legacy Park with her husband. She hopes they are remembered for helping to build this community figuratively, as much as building it with bricks and mortar.
I think that's what both Lou and I have tried to do. He's mentored a lot of young people. There are a lot of people in jobs here. We've always worked with the young people with the Business Institute, mentoring them over the summers in my business and in his business. And I think he's touched a lot of people in this community. And I think it's wonderful that he's being recognized for that.
Left of Center Art Gallery had so much to offer we didn't even have time to feature it all. For example, there's a big workspace where artists can come and talk to each other and work on their art. Students can come and watch them. There's a multi-purpose room where they have lectures and book signings. It's an amazing place. If you want more information, you can go to leftofcenterart.org, and we want to thank Vicki Richardson for spending so much time with us. Well, sticking with this theme of giving, the AARP and IRS are offering free assistance in helping people getting their taxes done. Now, there's a focus on people over 50 and people of low to moderate income. It's taking place across the city, including right here at the Doolittle Senior Center. Here's a list of some other locations. Now, you want to make sure you call or go onto the website of those places provided, not only to make your appointment, to make sure you bring the proper paperwork with you as well. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to take you into a mind-bending interactive art exhibit. You do not want to miss this.
You're doing great. We're gonna try this again, okay?
Okay.
Wheels, pedals, handlebar, brakes. Sit up straight, keep your weight in the center, keep your eyes on the road, hands on the grips, butt in the seat. If we feel ourselves falling, what do?
Just keep
pedaling. Good girl. Now remember, it's all about balance and steering. Steer with your hands, steer with your body. Steer into the corners and you stay out of trouble. And the bell's your buddy, so go ahead and ding that. All right, you ready? Here we go. Pedal, honey, pedal. There you go, you're a bike rider.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
Hands can do incredible things. Now they can even help save a life with hands-only CPR. If you see an adult suddenly collapse, just call 911, then push hard and fast in the center of the chest until help arrives. Learn more at handsonlycpr.org.
Welcome back to City Beat. Well, when Area 15 opened up, it promised to be a huge interactive artistic experience like none other. Recently, they opened Omega Mart. It's too hard to describe, so let's just take a look. To get inside Area 15 and the new Omega Mart, you first have to walk past giant creatures, crystallized arches, and shiny lovers. Once inside Omega Mart, whatever you might have been expecting, well, set it aside. This second permanent installation here by Meow Wolf is a fantasy grocery store that explodes and turns into extraordinary fantasy worlds. You can dance in a strobe light room or take part in some interactive art displays. 325 artists had a hand in designing this place that is described by Area 15 as an interactive, mind-bending art experience. You may need some Dramamine to get through parts of it, but it is amazing, colorful, and fun. Area 15 is located at 3215 South Rancho, right off of the I-15, so that should be easy to remember. Getting back to our Giving Back segment, there is something you can do for our environment. The pandemic taught us all new things about how to recycle, what we can trash, what needs to go in that bin, what do you do with masks, and some of the cleaning supplies. We headed out to Republic Services to get the ABCs on how to dispose of PPEs. It may just look like trash to the untrained eye, but there is a delicate balance between what you can and cannot recycle. Some things are obvious, like cushions and car parts.
Metal, that disc brake, they're trying to grab that disc brake.
Things that can clog or even severely damage the machinery. But when it comes to smaller items, it's not so clear. And since the COVID-19 pandemic, there is an uptick in recycling of everything, but especially things we haven't had to trash in the past.
We are seeing some things that don't necessarily belong here that are going through the waste stream. Most notably is some types of PPE. We do see some masks, but more often than not, we are seeing the nitrile, latex, or rubber gloves coming through here.
These days, with personal protective equipment being common household items, residents are facing a dilemma of whether to trash or recycle. Jeremy Walters says the wrong decision can cause big problems in this recycling sorting area of Republic Services. One of the biggest culprits, believe it or not, are these innocent-looking gloves.
Specifically with the gloves, I think that the misconception is that they feel like they're plastic, but nitrile, latex, or rubber, they are not recyclable, and because they are flexible in nature, they actually have a tendency to wrap and tangle around the sorting equipment, so they can potentially jam the equipment, make it less inefficient or less efficient. It requires people to physically climb in the machines and cut this stuff out.
Face coverings or masks present another problem that the machinery here at the recycling center is just not equipped to handle.
If they're made out of cloth, if they're made out of, they have some sort of polyethylene liner or plastic liners in them. There are multiple materials, and multiple materials are very difficult to handle. They require very specialized processes, which we do not have here. So these are trash.
Beyond what these items are made out of, what they are made for presents a problem in itself to the safety of the workers.
PPE is designed to keep us safe from germs and other pathogens. If these are used and you're throwing them in the recycling bin, people are here at this center and they're physically sorting through the materials, so we don't want them to have to come in contact with this stuff.
But since we're all using more cleaning supplies, once those cartons and containers are empty, they are typically perfectly fine for recycling.
There's a lot of materials that are great for recycling. These rigid plastic jugs, tubs, you know, the wipes themselves are not recyclable, but the tubs themselves are fantastic. Number 2 plastic is very common in detergents and disinfectants, so these are great for recycling. The boxes that your masks come in or your gloves come in, they're paper or cardboard. Those are fine for recycling as well. So we are seeing more of that, which is a good thing. We want to keep these things out of the waste stream, but we got to make sure that we're not throwing the wrong stuff in the bin.
But just as were the requirements before the pandemic, Republic Services asked that residents make sure all containers are empty before going into the recycle bin.
We try to encourage people to practice what we call empty, clean, dry. So if you've got soda cans, soup cans, bleach, detergents, or anything like that, just a quick rinse, a little bit of water, shake it up, and then tap it dry before you toss it in the recycling bin. These things, like paper and cardboard, they're very fragile, and if they get soiled with the food or liquid, they degrade, they break down, and they can't be recycled, so then we have to throw them away.
Whether it's more time spent at home or simply more items to go in the trash and recycle bin, Walter says they've seen more interest and participation in recycling since COVID-19 hit our community. We're having to learn how to do a lot of things differently these days. I guess we just add recycling to that list as well.
We definitely have seen more interest around recycling and recycling the right way. You know, a lot of people are working from home now. They might be working from home for the foreseeable future. More of the family members are also at home, so the responsibilities become shared. And it is a great time for us to brush up on recycling habits, learn what we can recycle, what we can't recycle.
A really great resource that you can always turn to is recyclingsimplified.com. If all else fails, there's pictures on the top of your recycling bin of what can be recycled and what cannot. Well, that does it for this edition of City Beat. Thank you so much for joining us from outside Doolittle Senior Center. We will see you next time around.